Hi, welcome. Good morning and welcome to all of you. So, I welcome you on behalf of Vidyan Ecology and Natural History Foundation for this Naturalist episode 2 on the topic storytelling's role in conservation. Now, stories are basis of evolution of mankind, and perhaps we human beings are the only species which can tell stories. And in fact, the stories are the basis of all form of knowledge transfer, and that also made possible the development we see today. So stories are the most powerful medium, and it has the power to bring unimaginable changes to our culture, behavior, or planning. So certainly, stories do have a major role in conservation. Uh, can you hear me? Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah. So I don't know about today's generation, but when I was kid, I grew up listening stories of tigers, jackals, crocodiles from my elders, and my first understanding of wildlife came from these stories. And Piyush is one such person I know personally who is constantly working on developing different methods to create consciousness around wildlife. And not only stories, so he has also developed different activities, crafts, which themselves, like you can say that they are like methods of storytelling. So it is very interesting, like the work he does and his book, Return of Tigers, this book. He gave me this book, I think, a couple of years ago, and it was a fantastic book. And I think this kind of books, like everyone should keep in their home. It's available in English and Hindi. And he regularly writes on various environmental issues, not only on children, but many other conservation issues. He's an architect, so you can also find his articles on like historical monuments, historical structures, all these things. But what fascinates me is he has a very keen knack for writing for children magazines and children articles, which I believe is very important. So without wasting much time, I welcome Mr. Piyush Aksaria to deliver this talk. And after a talk, please feel free to ask questions and have a discussion. And please mute your microphone so that we can listen Piyush without any disturbance. So over to you, Piyush. Thank you.
Thank you, Deba, so much. Without any ado, I'll actually get straight into my talk. I would just like to add that I'm very happy that Murthy sir is also joined. And I, of course, will talk about him more during my talk. The way I'm trying to do this is maybe limit the talk to about 30 minutes, which will then give us some good time to have a discussion after that. So with this, I'll try and share my presentation, and please let me know, Deba, once you can see it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay, great. So first of all, thank you very much, Deba and the Vindhya Bachao organization that you run. I think it's a very innovative idea, and you work really hard on this. Storytelling, of course, like Deba introduced, is a very vast and old, or maybe one of the oldest forms of narration that lives since the time of humankind. I'm going to base this talk around the story of the putting together of one story, which is called Our Tiger's Return. The illustration that you can see on the left is kind of symbolic of the story. It's an illustration made by a friend, Aniruddha Ghosh, and it is based on a photograph that was provided to us from the Panna Tiger Reserve. What I'm going to basically do is to talk to you about how this idea of putting the story together came about, and what happened as we went along, and how we tried to embed ourselves in this larger landscape with a focus on conservation. So, like many great ideas, this idea of doing a book for children on Panna Tiger Reserve started off like a challenge. I have a friend whom I have called Sri Sanjay Thakur. He probably would prefer to be called simply Sanjay, but Sanjay was visiting me in Delhi. Sanjay works extensively in the Central Indian landscape and has intimately worked in Panna and with Murthy sir. And he had just come back from Panna, and he was talking to me about this amazing story of the revival of tigers in Panna. And I basically told him, "What? Really? Is it really so? I thought the tigers in Panna were all gone." And he laughed at me and said, "You consider yourself to be interested in wildlife, and you consider yourself to know a bit about tigers, and you don't know this, that's an old story. Which age do you live in?" And I told him, oh, wow, that's amazing. And you know what? We should do, like, somebody should write about it. And he looked at me and said, yeah, then do something. Who's stopping you? So he threw a challenge at me, although we laughed it off. But then he very kindly also fixed up a meeting with Murthy sir. And I very simply booked a train ticket to Khajuraho and landed up in Panna. And Murthy sir was actually quite busy when I went. But he told me that, Piyush, I'll see you for half an hour. And that half an hour went into a much longer session where he narrated a lot of things. I had a small recorder which I recorded. He gave me a number of PowerPoints and other material to read. And in some ways, he sort of encouraged me and told me that, you know, this children's story book is now in your hands. While I continue to narrate this further, let me also credit a number of people. This, of course, is not an exhaustive list, but I want to make this now so that I don't miss out on this later. Murthy sir, of course, who is currently the APCCF Madhya Pradesh Biodiversity Board and was the director of Panna Tiger Reserve. And this was a period when Panna's tigers had come down to zero. And he really worked very hard, working with the staff, with the community, with the larger landscape to revive tigers. Then I cannot not thank Aniruddha Ghosh, who's an illustrator for this book, but who also did the design. There's Dipti Radhakrishnan, whose illustrations of the little girl on the left we recycled. There's Aditya Vikram Singh, who did illustrations for this book. There's Arjun Srivatsa, who just recently completed his PhD, who had done a lovely set of illustrations and who very kindly gave us these illustrations to use. And there's Center for Environmental Education, which has a series of wonderful illustrations that we use. There's Aniruddha Ghosh again. And then there's Shashi Jha, Parishi Suryavanshi, Arun Singh, who helped with the translation, and a number of other people whom I have listed very briefly here, and organizations, and all who played a role in, you know, making this book come around and the stories that get built up later on. While we worked on this book, we were very clear that we wanted to do it in Hindi and English. And I use the word Hindi first because it was far more important, or it remains even today far more important for us, that this story is read, is known, and is celebrated in the larger landscape that Panna inhabits. And of course, people across the country and across the world should know it. So in that sense, an English book was important. But for us, the Hindi book remains important. And I'll also share with you how we've tried to keep it alive in the landscape. Now, every book has to have a narrative form. And I've done a little bit of work earlier, and we sort of used the same trick of sorts, where we identified through talking to local teachers, a girl by the name Megha. And Megha had some kind of, you could say, aspects to her. She was curious, she was enthusiastic, she was from the region, she was part of visits to the Tiger Reserve as part of the Panna nature camps. And who better than to have a conversation between a young child and the director of the park. So we took Murthy sir as our second Sutradhar of sorts. And what this allowed us to do is to create a setting where we identified where this girl came from. And we identified in the characterization certain qualities of this girl, Megha. And to a certain extent, she was also capable in her innocence and in a genuine sort of nature to ask sometimes slightly awkward questions, or ask questions which we as adults or sometimes even children are hesitant to ask because they think that they should have known. And so this whole book has been built up as a conversation between Megha and Murthy sir. Megha comes from this little village at the edge of the Tiger Reserve, and she faces some problems from the Tiger Reserve, including facts like their cattle sometimes are left out to graze, and sometimes they also have some conflict with the park. So we set this up like this in terms of the narrative form, and you know, in a way, every park, and Panna more so, I think, has some unique stories attached to it. And in some ways, this story of the first tiger, the first male tiger that was brought to the park is really epic. And like Murthy sir was saying the other day, it actually deserves to be made into a full-fledged film. So here you have Panna, where the Forest Department has launched a reintroduction program. There is one male tiger that is there, still left. 2 females are brought in from Kanha and Pench, if I remember right. And then, or is it Kanha and Bandhavgarh? But anyways, and then you have, then you discover that the first male has disappeared. So in some ways, after all this effort, you realize that you're actually almost at starting point, because you don't have a male now in the tigers of the region. So you bring in a male, and this guy called T3, the minute he is released after a soft release is undertaken, the first thing he does is that he starts moving out of the park. And then there is this whole story about how the whole team comes together, how they motivate themselves, what are the different tricks and different sort of, science that they use to track this animal. And the reason why I'm speaking about T3 specifically also is that because stories are cyclical. Just in December last year, the park celebrated 10 years of T3's journey. And T3 didn't make a small foray outside the park. He actually traveled a good 425-30 kilometers in the direction of Pench. He was brought from Pench, and initially when he started moving out, they felt that he was in the direction of probably Bandhavgarh, and he was sort of re-establishing a corridor that existed between Bandhavgarh and Panna. And then as he kept moving, they realized that he was actually homing towards Pench. So it's a fascinating story. And then, of course, the question comes that after doing all this, use of elephants, mobilization of all departments, working day and night, you're able to finally locate the animal and tranquilize him. And this here shows you, the journey that T3 took. And if they hadn't captured him, he would have continued. And we actually retraced this journey with a group of about 40-50 people in December last year. And along the way, we met different people who were part of the story, part of this journey. And you could see the sense of pride and accomplishment they had of being part of this unique, adventure, unique history of sorts in the conservation history of the country, but also I think at a global level. And then the question comes that what ensures that this tiger, after this long journey, after being recaptured and is brought back to Panna, what ensures that he will not move out again? Because there was no real reason in that sense to stop him from moving out again, despite the fact that there was a prey base in the forest, and there were forest guards, and the forest department was kind of keeping a track of what he was doing. You can't really stop a tiger physically from moving out, if he's determined. And then the tiger reserve authorities, in consultation with scientists and other people, come up with this very ingenious idea of actually mixing the urine of and the scats of a female tiger and spraying it around. And I think the female tiger was in heat, and spraying it around in the area where they wanted T3 to stay put. And of course, the question is, how do you collect the urine and scat of a tiger in heat? And they actually brought it from the Bhopal Zoo. And I'm sure a lot of people doubted that this would work, but the fact is that it did work, and T3 stayed put. Now, I can of course go on about the story because it's so fascinating, because it's really like a series of surprises. But I'm going to say that the rest of the story you would have to read in the book. I'm not going to tell it here. I'm actually going to move on to some other parts of how then we started working with this fascinating story that we were completely driven by the idea of putting it out. There were lots of challenges including that of finance, of logistics, of distance. I was in Delhi, Murthy sir was in Panna, some of my other colleagues who were helping out in different places. We didn't really have, a very systematic plan other than, I would say, a certain drive, a crazy drive to wanting to do this at any cost, sort of craze. This is when T3 was recaptured, and I was part of one. I was luckily part of one release where a tiger that was captured in Bhopal was released in Panna, and I was able to witness it because that is the time when we were actually releasing the book in Panna. Not a small coincidence that we were releasing the book, and at the same time there was a male tiger for release. And I must tell you, it was one of the most amazing and powerful experiences I've been part of. It's actually spiritual. And to see not only the tiger in front of you at that distance, although the tiger was tranquilized and then later, released, but to also see the kind of awe and the respect that all the staff and the members there had for it. Can you all still see my slides?
No.
Right now, it has just stopped.
Slides are not being shared now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just-
I'm not sure. Okay, let me just.
No, ask
The
someone.
last
to
slide
share
was
the-
this tiger.
Share the screen. Piyush, ask the man who is handling to show the screen.
Right.
Yeah, it's visible now. Yeah.
Okay. Let me. So tell me which one I stopped at.
The tiger which was lying like.
Okay. Okay. Great. So
tranquilized.
I haven't.
Yeah,
I
this
haven't
one.
moved ahead. Yes.
Yes.
I'm not sure why that happened, but in case for some reason you all can't see the slide or can't hear me, please point out.
Okay. Sure.
And it was fascinating because the kind of respect, the kind of awe, it was much deeper. It was much deeper than anything I had seen. I think it was as deep as this land existed, and this animal existed in this landscape. And all of this is something that we don't necessarily come to know, or we don't necessarily get in. Well, even where there is a chance to experience this, but we don't necessarily get to know of these things. And I think somewhere, in an indirect way, we were driven by. Okay, Deva, have you taken control of the slideshow?
No. I haven't taken control. But I can still move if you want.
No, it's okay. I'm now controlling it. I've taken it back. For some reason,
Okay.
it had gone into your hand. I'm going to move on from say. Sorry. Yeah. So this is the iconic image where the first litter of Panna was discovered in Dhundwa Seha, and it's such a lovely image, and especially for a landscape that has gone through the trauma of losing all its tigers. To see, it's only one can only imagine. One can only imagine the kind of powerful emotions that a site of this sort would have created for all the people involved on ground to bring about this turnaround. And in some ways, I felt privileged to be part of this large team, and in some ways be a small spokesperson to take the story out to a larger audience. And I think that is the drive that a good story sort of generates in you. Another image, I think this is the second litter, more or less in the same location, and you can see the tigress with her collar, a beautiful animal. Now, of course, the writing of the story is a certain process where I did some field work. I met the staff. When I say staff, I'm also including the elephants. This little elephant was then called Prahlad, and his Mahut, there was a wonderful equation between these two people, and he also told me how if he wasn't careful, this little Prahlad was powerful enough to just knock him off. And here you have Prahlad accompanying his mother into the forest. We are also sitting on an elephant. I think it was Ram Bahadur, and we were actually going to see a tiger. And it was fascinating to see how the little elephant stayed with its elders or its mother, but at the same time explored the area a bit while a tiger wasn't very far away. And these experiences gave an insight into how the park functions, who are the people who run the affairs, what is the different technology being used, what are the challenges. So here you have, there is a tiger just next to the road. We couldn't see her. She was very close but hidden. And you had a team that was monitoring her presence. And I felt that all of this needed to be part of that story. And Panna has this fascinating tradition of celebrating the tiger birthday. It is the day on which the first litter was discovered, and they celebrate it every year. And as a team of people working on the book, a few of us were able to participate in one of these ceremonies. And you know, it's a very unique landscape. It's a landscape made of people, made of ideas, made of actions, and where things are dynamic, where things are changing, where change is being brought about, where people are working extremely hard on ground. And then you have this small ceremony where they are handed flowers, they are handed a piece of cake, where they're felicitated by the higher authorities from within the forest department, but also from the district administration. And it's a very unique, it's a very unique kind of atmosphere. And not all of this we could bring into the book, but all of this subconsciously or in a sort of not necessarily defined way helped us in the book. And you know, these are images that stay with us as a team while we remember and work on the book and as we go along. And then there are chance discoveries. So we were doing some field work, and there was Mr. Ravi Singh sir from WWF, CEO of WWF, who was with us. And he's a historian, and he has a great knack of you know, finding rock paintings. And we were actually in a stream, and just while looking around, he was standing under an overhang, and he says that this is the ideal place for a rock painting in this landscape, without realizing that just above him there is a rock painting on the overhanging rock. And you know, this was not even very extensive field work. There are a number of people, researchers, forest staff, of course, undertake. These were just short visits, and there was so much that this landscape provided. And we try to include these stories. So this photograph is part of the book, and we talk about how old this landscape is and how old is this interaction between humans and this landscape, using images like that. So it brings in a certain authenticity, and it also allows you to be anchored in a certain geography. Now, coming to what it meant to put out the book and what drove our work further. So what you're seeing here is a very unique and I think excellent program called the Panna Nature Camps. See, one of the things that the forest department and the people interested in the park realized as they were looking at the regeneration or the restoration of the park was that the people around the park didn't think that the park was theirs. They thought it was that of the forest department, they thought it was that of the white tourists who visited, but not really theirs. And Panna Tiger Reserve, along with WWF, has come up with this very unique scheme called Panna Nature Camps, where every Sunday in November or February, about 35, mainly children but also adults, spend a whole day in the park, where they're introduced to the parks through some PowerPoint presentations, but they're also taken for a couple of walks inside the park, and there are a couple of activities like quizzing and so on. So for us, it became important that we sort of help, or these activities become part of our book. And I'll talk about them more. There are two very respectable young gentlemen who are now in their 80s and 90s, called Ambika Khare sir and Chaturvedi sir, who actually ran these camps for about 8-9 years before handing it over to some of their colleagues. And here what we started doing is that with the help of the forest department, with the help of other agencies, we made the book available to the children as part of the kit, as part of their camp kit. And in that sense, over the past 3-4 years, probably 2,000 copies of this book are amongst children of that landscape. These are typically people only living in that landscape that are allowed or that participate in these nature camps. And all of them have a copy of this book. Now, it may not seem like a very big thing, but I've had some interactions with children who've been part of the nature camps and who've received the books. We interact regularly with Manish Rawat and the other teacher who's currently responsible for the camps. And we get a lot of interesting insights into how these camps are doing, what is the impact it has on children, what children tell them about the book. And so in some ways, using these camps, or you could say piggybacking on these camps, we've got this book out there in the landscape. Also, important thing is that both Ambika sir and Chaturvedi sir are actually part of the book. They are characters in this book, and Anirudh did some very simple caricatures of them, and so they are actually there in person in the book. The Panna Nature Camps is there in the book. One of the things that we also did, and this is what happens, I think, when you start working with the landscape, you start working, in this case, through a storybook for children. We were able to nominate Ambika Khare sir and Chaturvedi sir, the two gentlemen sitting in the middle, for the Sanctuary Asia Awards. And they very, very rightly received this award, and I think the year was 2018. And not that, these gentlemen were, of course, are among the most young and motivated people I've come across. Great sense of humor, great sense of commitment, a great sense of pride in their landscape and what it means to have the tiger in that landscape, to have Panna Tiger Reserve as a rich ecosystem. And for them, I just feel that we fall short in recognizing people like these time and again. And this award, of course, is a very small recognition of what they've been able to do. But I think it's very important. And I think for me, the important thing in this process was to know these wonderful people on ground. And I am, of course, not able to list all of those wonderful people. There are people who continue to play a very important role, whether while being part of the forest department or outside it. And these are the kind of things, I think, which are not necessarily part of the storybook or storytelling in the classical sense, but are essentially important stories and fascinating stories to be part of and to narrate and to get out there in the world. Of course, for them, it's a matter of great pride that their work was recognized, that they were called to Bombay, that they were felicitated. But I think we need to do more of this in our protected areas, in and around our protected areas. We also did another initiative called 100 Books for Panna, where we realized that especially a certain profile of nature guides, these jeep drivers, some of the lower rung forest staff, some of the temporary staff, they also didn't necessarily know the story in its entirety, although they are part of the landscape. And we thought that the least we could do is to make the Hindi copy available to them. So talking to some guides like R.P. Ombre, some of the tour operators there like Abhinav Pandey, other people like Dwivedi ji in the forest department, we came up with a sort of rough list of about 100 people who should get this book. And what we did is that we actually ran a crowdfunding campaign. And the idea was that the book is available otherwise for 200 rupees, but we will make it available for 100. And we organize these books to go to Panna. There's also an NGO by the name Samavesh that works there in that landscape, in schools and education and with village communities. They also were part of this exercise. And the crowdfunding per se was not so much to raise the money. Of course, we had to raise the money. But the important thing for us was that it allows more people to become part of the story. So everybody who contributes a small sum, whether it's 100 rupees or a larger amount, becomes part of the story. And this is just one image that Omre ji sent me after having distributed the book after a morning ride. And even today, when you go to the landscape, you sometimes meet people, and when they come to know oh, you wrote the book. Oh, wonderful. I really liked it. It was really interesting. So I feel we sometimes take things for granted and we just assume that people in the landscape would obviously know the stories. They probably know it broadly, but there are lots of details in there that they don't. Also, another anecdote here is that Mr. Jain was the park director, I think, in 2016 or so, and we organized the book for him. And one day I was calling him for some work to request for some permission, and he recognized me and he said, Piyush, all of you have done a wonderful job. My son now seems to know the park's functioning better than I do. So he, of course, was being very encouraging, but it was an insight into the kind of stuff a book can do. We talk about a lot of things, including equipment, how it is used, how tigers are identified, what is camera trapping, how is the collar used, and Megha very intelligently asks questions to Murthy sir, who very patiently explains to her different things. So we've used this narrative form, which allowed us to bring about a number of questions. And then continuing on the story, what we also realize is that in this landscape, there are a number of teachers, there are a number of schools, there are some groups that are working in school education also. And a book in itself does provide some insights, but if we were really to look at nature education, how do we engage? And, the sale of the book has raised some money. It's not a lot of money, but it's a little bit of money. And what we try and do is that we try and use this money back in the landscape. And this exercise was coordinated with Samavesh and with Last Wilderness. I must also add here that Last Wilderness had an extremely important role to play in the publishing of this book. When the book was ready, and we sort of also had received some financial support from mainly individuals to be able to print it, we still didn't have a publisher. And it didn't really make sense to just publish it like this, without any organizational setup. Last Wilderness has been active in this landscape, and you must check out their work if you don't know about it. And actually, at the last minute, they stepped in and played the role of the publishers. And not only that, after we sort of ran out the first set of copies, using their own resources, they made the first reprint. And I would like to say that as of today, we've done, I think, about 3,000 copies in English and 4,000 copies in Hindi. And I think the number of Hindi copies is more because we've been able to integrate it with activities in the landscape. There's WWF that has also procured copies for distribution during the nature camps. There's the Panna Forest Department that has also done this. So here we conducted a 2-day training workshop for teachers in the landscape. We had about 40 teachers from different groups and schools that participated. We used the book and the story of Panna as the anchor, but we used different tools. And maybe I should just take a minute to explain how some of these tools came about. So, as a person who's co-authored the book, when you are invited to, say, give a talk, and you really wonder about your skills about narrating the story, and you're going to have an audience of maybe 20, 30 people sitting there, and you have a slot of at least an hour. And I really freaked out because there were going to be kids, and this was actually in Delhi. And I really felt that, I can't, although the story is fascinating, I can't hold the audience together for an hour. Impossible. So I started thinking of what could be done, and I came up with this sort of package where we start off with a quiz. So we've put together a series of 16 questions with multiple choice answers. And then we do some storytelling, where typically I narrate the story of P3 and then leave the rest for people's imagination. And then we do some tiger craft, which is basically called bringing a dead tiger alive. And now as we've gone along, we've also added certain other aspects like using of jigsaw puzzles, picture reading, art. And here with the Pardhis of Panna, again, a fantastic effort by the Forest Department and Last Wilderness, where they are now conducting walks, and they have the most amazing jungle skills you would have ever seen. So they take these teachers out for a walk, and it's fascinating because none of these Pardhis have gone to school, at least the generation that has taken the teachers out for a walk. And all the teachers in that area know the Pardhis. The Pardhis are known, but not necessarily in the best way. They're known as hunters, they're known as nomadic hunter-gatherer kind of categories. And here you have teachers who are seeing Pardhis imitate calls, show them signs, and it's a fascinating exchange. So I feel that while the book is a vehicle, the book has provided a vehicle. A quick slide here which shows there's somebody that should probably go on mute. Debu, if you could help. Okay, I'll continue. So while we did this journey, the T3 journey, and I was fortunate to be part of it, I sort of tried to use this journey to draw some of the people we met and some of the places of cultural interest we saw along the way. And some of these caricatures came out okay, some of them didn't come out all that great, but people were kind enough and most of them smiled at this little adventure. I haven't really been able to do much with this as yet, but I'm hoping to do something with it in terms of putting it out in some ways. But these are people in this landscape, right? From, you know, very simple village people, village men, to panchayat heads, to forest guards, all of whom have played a very important role in the revival of this landscape and who remain extremely proud of this. They may not be known, they may not know that people outside know of this. They did their duty with utmost regard. And, you know, I feel that their stories and they are important and we need to be able to bring these stories out. Another one, which actually got published just last week, this is on the elephant called by the name Vatsala, who probably is the oldest living elephant, Asian elephant in the world. And this story was published in the Hindu Business Line Inc., which is a Saturday edition of the Hindu Business Line. And a couple of years back, actually in 2016, that's almost 4 years back now, there was this very interesting story of two tigresses, T4 and T5, who were orphaned at a very young age in Kanha. And they were brought up in a slightly semi-wild condition in a large enclosure in Kanha. But by the time it was decided that they would be released in Panna, they were already, like, you know, adult tigresses. They were probably 5, 6 years old. And I, of course, came to know of them while working on the book. And then a moment came when both of them passed away. Actually, and this sort of led to a story, and that in the Indian Express, and which in turn, you know, opened up a whole new set of sort of, you could say, characters or anyway, this is there on the internet for you all to read. I'm going to move on. And of course, now you could say, learning from this experience primarily, there are other stories, and I'm going to share one story or one book that I'm working on currently, and then open it up for questions and discussion. So this is actually a story located, or a book located in Jaisalmer, in the area where we find the Great Indian Bustard. The story is, or the book is currently called Hamara Godawan Hamari Shan, Our Bustard, Our Pride. We may change the title to make it a little more jazzy. All these lovely illustrations are by Sneha Malini, and this is the team that you can see there that is part of it. You know, a storybook, at least in my experience, involves a number of people, and all of them play important, sometimes small, but I think extremely vital roles in putting a story together. We currently are running a crowdfunding campaign for this piece of work, and you're please welcome to go and check it out after the talk if you feel like. We are in the last stage, I think 4 days to go. We still have some money to raise. But here again, we are actually working with schools, with specific schools in the landscape in whose area the Great Indian Bustard is still found. And the idea is that the book alone will not really suffice. It's important, but it's not sufficient. So we are going to have local resource persons trained who will carry out certain activities using the book, but also using another game that we are trying to develop that will go with this. And through that, we are hoping that in a few years of effort, a whole cross section of children in the core area where the bustard is found will be aware of the bustard and other desert wildlife, and will probably become architects of change and protection. So with this, I would like to end. Thank you all very much for listening. And I think we'll open it up for questions. We probably have at least 15 minutes, if not more, for that. Thank you. Deva, have I stopped sharing?
Yes, you can share. So thank you, Piyush. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Just a minute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Piyush. Your PPT is still visible. Can you just close the PPT? So we can see people.
How do I do
Just
it?
close the PPT. Just close the PPT.
Close the PPT. Okay. It still hasn't gone. Now has it gone?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a beautiful talk, and you have very well explained like the story of behind the book, and you have distributed this book to like local kids. That is, I think, the most wonderful thing. Some 3,000 copies you said, right, to the kids.
Yeah, so it's 3,000 copies plus actually.
Okay.
And of course, the forest department has taken the lead in this effort. So it's really visionary on part of the forest department to continue using this book in the landscape like this.
And also I think it is very rare for a forest department to go like take one step further. To in my experience, I have seen forest department only busy in like managing their forest or doing administrative stuff. And I think the co-author is like Mr. Murthy. He's also here. So taking this extra step, to go out and I was reading the book and he said that the motto, like tagline of Panna is that I love Panna people and tigers, something like this. So this itself is, I think, one exemplary model of conservation. So, but because Murthy sir is also here, so I will request Mr. Murthy also to share a few words about his experiences, like what made him like do this kind of stuff, like which is, I think, very important also. So, Mr. Murthy, can you please share a few words?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and Piyush, and most of the rest of the people I don't know by name, and many are faces not being seen here except for the three on my screen. It was a quite a, what should I say, spirited part of history. Still the history is moving on, and I should put my appreciation to Piyush, who was like a leech. But all the time sticking to me in spite of me not giving much of the attention. One particular night when finally I was there in Bhopal, of course those times were very, what should I say, very tiring times, not only tiring but very tight times. So in Bhopal, in one meeting I attended throughout the day, then I said him, please come to my hotel. So I will have 2 hours of nap and then I will give you the pictures. Then finally I could be able to pull up with him at 1:30 at the night, and then I handed over to him telling that now my work is over. But the pursuance capacity of Piyush is no match for it. Otherwise, anybody could have been hurt otherwise, egoistically or otherwise. But this gentleman is too good to finally see that this book is true. I am struggling to come out with my elder version, adult version. In all probability, I committed myself publicly by launching the website for the book. Many people took it that I am launching my books. So I have to what should I say, with a lot of humiliation and embarrassment, I have to say, sir, it's not book publication, it's book launching. It's only a website launching, because my motives are two. One thing, now I cannot escape this bracket of committing myself in a larger public. Of course, I have done it earlier also. And second thing,
So we've lost your voice.
I think we have lost Murthy sir. His connection might be unstable.
So
I will come back.
Yeah.
right.
Yes, we can see you.
And now you can hear me.
Yeah,
Yes,
sir.
sir, we can.
What you can do is you can switch off your video. If your connection is slow, you can just turn off the video.
Just a minute. Where from to switch off the video?
So if you take your mouse or whatever, right?
Yes,
There's a
that
video and
done
mic
done.
option.
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes, yes. You're audible.
Okay. So with this particular issue, I wanted to take the conservation movement to next level. So that's how I launched the website book, and I will be retiring on 31st August this month only. So I will have good amount of free time for myself to come out these issues. And I have already put the message, and then I would like to again re-emphasize with Piyush and others. We have to update this book, and then the good date will be 1st November 2020. Whether it is virtually or physically, I don't know. COVID may not permit whatever may the situation. But let us it updated, because this book has done a lot of wonders around in the entire landscape. Other people were telling lot many stories which were not there. So this is one authenticated book, and then my website address I have given. In all probability it must be under some reconstruction. That's how it is not available for the people. And then Piyush, I request you to share my number as well as the mobile number also, so that anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'll be it's always welcome. So I congratulate Piyush and all entire group for this particular program. And then I would like to point out here, when the program started, it touched the peak of 43. Now it stands at 11. So this is where, when I put a message here around, we need a critical mass for conservation cause. Somehow my experience over last 15 years is not, what should I say, not quite encouraging. So how to make the, what should I say, professional or hardcore conservationist people, not to fight up with the system, but to join the system and do some good. Because fighting it out is not going to help anywhere, because people in the system will never budge down, because that's what that their mindset. You and me cannot able to help it. But you see, now how you can really what should I say, strongly hold on to the conservation community in these critical times is all the more important. Because when I was started this particular nature issues, I will close in another 30 seconds minute. One of my senior officers said, you don't have a critical mass to move on. That's where the our voice doesn't get heard around. Thank you everybody. Let us move in that direction to develop that critical mass in another, say, 5 years time, 10 years time, but it has to be done. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So we are running out of time, but we can extend like some 10-15 minutes if there are questions. Piyush, are you okay with it?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So please, like, if anyone wants to discuss or share anything or ask to Piyush or Murthy sir, please feel free. You have to unmute yourself if anyone wants to speak.
Yeah, hello. I'm Sudhamsu. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sure.
yes, you're audible.
Yeah. I was wondering, two things come to mind when we go for conservation practices, when we go to our fields, that accents, or we call local terminologies, and local culture, these two things. How much they impact our conservation efforts, and how it is important, how much it is important for nature education.
Okay, so I think you've raised a very important point, is that like, even if you look at the Panna landscape, there are lots of there's a local language, there are local cultural affiliations with the forest, with the tiger, and I'm not honestly very sure as to how well we've been able to capture that in the revised version that we want to work on. We want to localize the book further. But there are different attempts that we did, right from, say, choosing children as a sutradhar from the landscape, from using school teachers from the landscape, from talking about certain aspects of the landscape. And I think that, you know, it's a very essential part of creating greater awareness about conservation in a whole cross section of society. I think there is a greater awareness amongst a certain urban crowd today, but we need to really work a lot more locally. And I think there is a lot of scope for localizing our work. And I can also see some questions that are happening here, and I'll also try and take them as we go along. I also feel that for our protected areas, and not just for tiger reserves, we need to have stories that are anchored in those landscapes, because those landscapes have rich histories of conservation, of local tribal folk, of so many other things. And I think we need to anchor our stories in those landscapes and make these stories available in the landscape. And I think that is a very important space and where we are lacking. I hope it answers your question.
Yes, thank you, Piyush.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have a couple of chat questions. So some Hanumant, he asked that
Yes.
This could be a good tool for conservationists all over the country. Do you think? And if the book can be made part of curriculum in the primary school of the government?
Yeah. So I think it's a good tool, an essential tool that we are currently lacking in our country. If you go to other countries, like say, just for the sake of example, if you take the US, which has a very strong set of national park systems, you will find a lot of content which is specifically of that particular region. Now, if you look at this particular story in Panna, it's a really unique story. Nowhere in the world before Panna did we have tigers being re-established. If you look at the story of T3, it not only establishes that tigers have a homing instinct, and that homing instinct is actually of a scale which nobody had ever imagined. The tiger negotiated around 450 kilometers in a certain direction. And of course, this whole story of how tigers came back to Panna is a unique story. And it is actually today being used as an example, not only in India for other tiger reserves and other protected areas, but it's also a subject of study across the world. I know of cases, and Murthy sir was part of these, where Russian delegations came. He himself has been part of a visit to Cambodia. So in that sense, this has a relevance or an importance not only for the country, but globally. And I think it is our shortcoming of sorts that we've not been able to take the story out to the masses. It's a story that will really do well, even if it's part of a film, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Piyush. So anyone want to ask any question directly on video also, we can ask. You have to unmute yourself. If anyone wants to speak, then you can speak. So Piyush, so no one is asking questions, so I have a question. So this is my personal observation. Don't take it otherwise. But do you think, like in landscape where there are no tigers, like bustard, okay, and maybe some other species? So do you think there is a like enough resources for like a storybook you published in Town Tigers? That's a very good book. Whether there are already existing like such kind of publications in India where you can see other species you can think about.
So you're right in the sense that there is a preference, or there is probably a greater interest in some of the iconic species. So I can think of materials, say, published for the Ladakh and Spiti landscapes with primarily the snow leopard as the main sort of protagonist. But I can also think of one very lovely little storybook that was done in the Western Ghats in Maharashtra, which was on the otter, which is in Marathi, and which has been illustrated by a local schoolgirl. And it was published, it was printed in small numbers, and it has been circulated in that landscape. It probably has a much wider potential impact. But I think there are different conservation groups that are trying now to, generate material. It could be in the form of posters or field guides or brochure-based guides for certain landscapes. But at the same time, I feel that with some effort, with some good writing and good illustration, almost any species in any landscape can be brought about. There's so much interest, and in that sense, I think we, if you look at the number of people also say working on tigers, you don't really. So I feel that we suffer sometimes from an over-emphasis on a few iconic species. They're important, no doubt about that. But I think we also need to shift our focus to other species. For example, the work that you're doing with sloth bears, I think it's fascinating. And similarly, there are other species that demand or need the same kind of attention. And I think it's possible to do interesting work with them if we keep our ideas simple and we keep it kind of lively and well illustrated, well designed.
Thank you, Piyush. Thank you. So if anyone want to ask, we can take a couple of questions, then we can close this discussion. So I think there's no questions left. You and Murtuza pretty covered all the issues. It's a very well explained presentation. So I thank you very much, Piyush. Thank you very much, Murthy sir, and everyone who attended this talk.
Deba, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's one question that has come in, so maybe I can just take it.
Yes, please.
This is from Swati, who asks, what really inspires you to write for children's stories on nature conservation? Okay. So, I think writing for children is fun. It sort of asks of you to go into another time and space, actually in some ways to your own childhood, but that of the childhood of children. And it's also exciting because I think it generates a lot of interest amongst people, amongst friends, amongst organizations. And I think thirdly, because somewhere all of us also hope that this will help the future generation be more aware of their landscape, of nature, and will in some ways take this conservation story further. Also, I think something that inspires me is that as a child, I was lucky to have access to people, to magazines, to books, and that really played a very important role in my connecting with nature. And I feel that somewhere we need to continue to do that, because if we don't do it, then who is going to? And maybe a fourth thing that is really inspiring is that when you interact with this work with children, their enthusiasm, their sincerity, their compassion, their passion is just mind-boggling. I remember I had a storytelling session at an event in Pune where I narrated the story of the return of tigers to Panna, and we had a book signing session at the end of it. And then there was a little boy who came to me and said that, I'm really sorry, I don't have money to buy the book. My mama is not here, otherwise I would have asked her for money. But tell me something. I know that we have to save tigers, but how do we save them? Please tell me, how do we save them? Because we have to save tigers. I want to save tigers, And I was overwhelmed because this was a little boy who was telling me that, all these stories are fine, but we have to save tigers, and how do we do it? And I feel that, this is an interface that we have to create and keep alive, and we have to be able to answer these questions, give examples. So we cannot just paint a bad picture. We have to show children how this is being done, how it can be done, without it being fictitious, with it being very anchored in reality. And so I feel that this is what inspires you. One thing leads to the other. And the getting involved with the Panna book, when I started off, I didn't know what we were trying to do, but over a period of time, it's almost like a different world opens up for you. Whether it's and stories travel, the book travels. It's far more powerful in a way than what you would have done. It has its own journey, and you can't really control it. Deva, if you don't mind, there's another question that has come.
Yes, sure. Take as much question.
So there's Chandana, who's asked, how do you take the book to local schools and create interest among students and teachers? I think this is a very good question, and this has been an important part of what we've been trying to do. Like I said, Panna has Panna nature camps where they are roughly about, I think in a year, every year there are about 500 people who participate. About 60-70% of these are school children. And this copy goes to each one of them. So it's part of the nature camp kit, and the forest department has facilitated this. Whereas part of the kit, each participant gets the book. So that is one thing that we've done. We've also been working, and thanks to people in the landscape, including people who run schools, people who run resorts. They have bought copies of the book and distributed amongst their teachers, amongst their students. And you would have seen that we also talked of one teacher training workshop where we interacted with about 40 teachers of the landscape. And the idea was that, and just like Murthy sir has mentioned, as of today, as of this year, 7,500 people have participated, and 60-70% of these are children have participated in the Panna nature camps over the past 10 years. And I can tell you, I was part of one discussion where there was a teacher who said that she was part of the first Panna nature camp, and she was not a teacher in school. So, these are small things at the face of it, but it makes a large impact, and it's very important. And I want to give another example. The Panna Tiger Reserve has started a facility where there is one bus, which during the Panna nature camps is used for the Panna nature camps, but for the rest of the year is available for local people to visit the park at a much lower rate than what a typical ride would take. And this probably seats 20 people or maybe 30 people. So one day at the canteen where the people are dropped off at the Hinota gate after the trail, I met a large family that came from Panna. And I got chatting with them and I said, how did you like the visit? And they said, oh, it was a wonderful visit. It was so beautiful, this and that. And then I asked them, but you must be used to the park. You must know the park. And they said, no, this is the first time we've come to the park. And, I was a bit naive and I said, but aren't you from Panna? So he said, so. And then he sort of opened up and he said, the truth is that to date, we didn't think that the park was for us. And there was no way for us to be able to access the park. It was just too expensive. It was just too distant. But when we came to know that the Panna Tiger Reserve has made this facility available, we all decided to come for it. And now we feel that we are part of the park. So, I think that the book, of course, is a via media, but there are lots of other efforts that that we need to do, and which there are some really good examples in Panna. There are also, of course, other examples across the country. There's another question here. How many months, years did you take to complete the book? So I think from the date where I first discussed with Sanjay to the date we released this in Panna, which was November 16th, I think 2017, it was probably about 3 to 4 years. But I don't think that the book really needs to take that much time. There were other challenges that we faced during this period. I think a good book can come about with some good participation in about a year's time. Sorry, there's another comment from Jayanta Pathak who says, we wrote a book on tiger and mankind in Assamese and Bodo for the children. I think there are many such books available in vernacular languages, and we should take an initiative to make them available in a single window. I think this is an excellent point, Jayanta ji. I completely agree with you that there are lots of efforts that are taking place as we speak and have taken place in the past in regions, and we don't necessarily know of them. I'm more than happy to be part of this initiative to put all these materials together and make them available to a wider audience. And also, let's also disconnect separately and see how we can work together on a theme like that. Yeah, I think a couple of comments from Murthy sir, which I would just like to repeat for everybody's benefit. Murthy sir has said that. Okay, Murthy sir, there's a question for you. Maybe you could come on and.
Which question? Which question?
So,
Last question.
You raised an important issue.
Yes.
1 minute. Important working with and quite a good question. You see, Malab, here, see my face also when I speak here. Till 31st October, I'll be part of the government system. One thing, everybody, not only in the government system, everybody loves to have a status quoism because everybody's benefits are fixed there. So if you want to disturb the status quoism, the people are very clever inside and outside the system, and they will never allow you to move on. But in spite of all these issues, Panna has happened. So one need to have a strategy to move on. Fighting on is not going to resolve anything. There are many examples I will not be able to quote here, but it's better to move with the system and be part of the system and do some good. That's the best thing that Piyush is an example here. He could have resisted at some point of time telling that Murthy Sahib is not cooperating. Yes, let us take an extreme view about it. अरे ये तो बहुत बेकार है, arrogant है, मैं कितनी बार रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ लेकिन ये कुछ नहीं बोल सकता है. तो लेकिन ऐसा नहीं हुआ ना. The basic issue is that कि we have to, मतलब fighting is not a real solution. Fight कर करके आपकी एनर्जी उसमें बर्बाद हो जाएगा. तो energy that everyone does have very limited, and let us put it for a right cause. That's my matlab, that's what I have learned from the Panna, even before that also. Thank you.
Deba, I would just like to come in and add here to what Murthy sir said.
yes.
There are lots of people, I think, like me, like Deba, like so many others, who in whatever small way or big way are trying to do what they can for conservation. Conservation is a big term, it's a big thing. It's not easy to anyways do anything single-handedly. And I think that we sometimes in the kind of challenges we face or we come across, we get upset or we get demotivated. And I think it's very important for all of us who are interested to find ways and means and partners to be able to continue this work. And like Murthy sir said, in ways which are constructive. It doesn't take away from the fact that there are larger challenges which we may not be able to really take on. But we have to find ways. If the door is closed, you find the window and you try and get out. If everything is closed, you find a crack and you at least look out. So I would like to say that all of us, and I'm sure many of the people here in this forum are already doing what they can do. But I think we have to keep this spirit and keep working and find partners and work with people. And especially work with community on ground. Whatever way we can work with community on ground, I think that's the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Piyush. I agree with most of it, but I also want to add that we also need officers like Murthy sir. People can be like, who really like are like conservationists from heart. But not everyone is like this. But this is very rare. So, in most of the officers I have met, they're very good. They're very helpful, and they are very keen to the cause of wildlife. So I think the first department is the only department in the government which actually thinks of conservation. Because of their IFS cadre and all this thing, and also people like Piyush and like everyone in this forum, they are working in the department in some other way to make the change happen. So it's a long process, and we should not lose hope anytime soon because it is not going to happen overnight. So, and we have seen the example of Panna. Tigers vanished from there, and then it is introduced, and for the first time we have seen that this introduction of tigers have been successful. They have bred many times, and I don't think we have any more questions. But if you have questions, you can mail to Piyush. His email ID. Piyush, can you just write your email ID in the chat? So if anyone wants to, Murthy sir's email ID you already wrote, but if you can write your own email ID. And also we will be uploading this video on YouTube. You can get it by today evening or tomorrow morning. And if you want to subscribe for more talks, because we are organizing more of such talks with people who are close to ground. Not necessarily they have to be scientists or ecologists. Of course, they are also important. We will also inviting scientists, but people like Piyush who are doing stuff on storytelling. Our next talk will be with a person who is doing ecotourism in this central Indian landscape around there. So it will be around this like next month in August. So with this, I say thank you to all of you. Thank you for joining today. You're most welcome. And if you want to join like this mailing list, please reply to the email info@vindhyavachar.org. We will add you to the mailing list. So please take care. Bye.
Thank you, Murthy sir. Thank you, Deba. Thank you, everybody.